can we learn from a Japanese tea bowl? We know that the purpose of this bowl is to drink tea from it. But there are several other things that you can learn. By holding a Japanese tea bowl in your hands, you learn about a piece of history. And you learn about a unique way of looking at the world. Tea and the tea bowl began in China almost 5,000 years ago. And the Chinese really liked this beverage because it gave them energy, but the kind of energy it gave them was a calm energy. Now, once you have a popular beverage, because tea spread throughout China quickly, you need to be able to put it into something, which is the tea bowl. Now, this is an example of a tea bowl, Chinese tea bowl that is about 1,000 years old. And you can see that it is really based on the shape of a rice bowl. Now, recently, I had the opportunity to hold this 1,000-year-old bowl in my hands. And as I held it in my hands, I thought, how many generations of people have held this bowl in their hands? And I thought to myself, as I was holding it, that I was really being now a part of the history of this tea bowl. Now, China became a center to learn about Buddhism. So people from surrounding countries would come to China to study Buddhism. Japan was one of those countries. And soon the Japanese found out how to grow tea in their country, and they developed a very special tea ceremony. And it's very complex, but it really is one of my favorite ceremonies. Now, the first time that I saw the Japanese tea ceremony, it was about 2.5 hours long. And I thought, there's got to be a faster way to make a bowl of tea. But as I continued to look at the woman that was moving, and she'd been studying about 30 years to really perfect everything that she was doing, I saw all of her moments. I saw every movement was graceful and beautiful. And it really got my attention. And one of the first things I noticed was that the guests that were there were carefully looking at the tea bowls that were in their hands. And they were moving it around and peering into it and looking around it. And I was fascinated by that. And at first I saw that the bowls looked very old and they looked very irregular. But after a while, I started to see beauty in the bowls. What I'd like to present to you today is a concept. It's the concept of the tea bowl, and it has made a big difference in my life in terms of how I see beauty. And I challenge you all to expand your definition of beauty. The name of that concept is a very funny word. It's called Wabi-sabi. Now, Wabi-sabi is two Japanese words, and the Japanese see the world very differently than the way we see it. The term wabi means simple, and it's something object-wise that reflects nature. Sabi, on the other hand, is more looking at changes over time, such as the seasons that change. So it's looking at something, an object that has gone through changes. Now, when you put the terms together, you get simplicity. The simplicity of two blossoms on a single branch. In Wabi-sabi, less is more. and the fleeting moments that happen in nature, such as raindrops that are running down the blade of a piece of grass, and the changes that happen between the seasons, from spring to summer to fall. And finally, wabi-sabi is finding beauty in imperfection, such as this piece of driftwood. No other piece of driftwood is like this piece. Now, how do the Japanese apply wabi-sabi in their tea ceremony? In the design of the tea bowls. They use wabi-sabi as a blueprint to create their tea bowls. This tea bowl reminds me of looking at the bark on an old tree. The potter takes these tea bowls, and in the case it's a her, in her hands, and she shapes them individually. So each bowl is a unique statement. And wabi-sabi brings in, it finds beauty in imperfection, such as the discoloration and the different textures and surfaces on this particular Japanese tea bowl. Now, we have several barriers in our culture that sometimes prevent us from understanding what wabi-sabi is. One of those is our conception of perfection. This is a very beautiful cup and saucer, but this is not an example of wabi-sabi. This is irregular, it has a very definite pattern, and it's mass-produced, so it's one of thousands of items that are identical. Another cultural barrier is the images that we see in our media, such as magazines and television. This woman is a beautiful woman, but her uniqueness and individuality has been photoshopped out. And we tend to throw away things in our society. When something gets old, or when something's out of date, we toss it out. This is the result of that kind of activity. This is the largest landfill garbage dump. It's outside of Los Angeles. This is 700 acres in area, and that's about 700 football fields. And garbage on that 700 acres is stacked 500 feet high. That's as high as the Washington Monument. A lot of garbage. Now, this is an example of a bowl that is probably the most venerated tea bowl in all of Japan. And this is actually, it's not a tea bowl, it's a rice bowl. This is in a museum. This is a Korean, and it's from the 16th century. It is a rice bowl. And the Japanese use this bowl as a model for their Japanese tea bowls. And you can see the cracks. Because in wabi-sabi, when something's damaged, it's repaired. Now, I encourage you to challenge your idea of what beauty is. We need to find beauty in the young, in the middle age, and in the elderly. I love the wabi-sabi in this woman's face. And we need to go beyond appearances sometimes. We need to see behind and through the texture on this woman's face. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to continue exploring wabi-sabi in the lobby. We have tea bowls out there. We have several of the portraits. Then there's that wonderful portrait of the woman that has the veil of the face. I want you to go pick up a bowl, turn it around, and explore it, and look at the photographs. And you'll get an opportunity to taste Japanese matcha actually not in, but you'll be able to hold the bowl. You'll be able to taste Japanese matcha. I want to thank you for your attention. looking at the world through the lens of Wabi-sabi has changed my life. I encourage you to put a little Wabi-sabi in yours. Thank you.